Hello and welcome to week 4 of PA117. This week we are still in chapter 3 of your book, but the end of it. And I know last week was a little confusing because some of the questions came out of the end of the book, but this mostly is true to the last of the book. So let's go ahead and start with the lecture. I wanted to give you a little bit about the discussion question. The discussion question is actually an opinions-based question and a morals-based question, really. So there's not a right or wrong answer. So just be truthful. And something that you could always add to your discussion is if you've maybe found an example online, if you found an article that relates to it, that can always be helpful to add something to the discussion. This is a place for you to really talk to the other students in the class, and to add something to the discussion means that then they can respond to you easier. I know when you're trying to do the 2 peer reviews, you're trying to find something within the other person's article to comment on, and just that's a great job is not worth your points. So you really need to. That's a great job, because I love how you pointed out that this, I didn't even think about that, blah, blah, blah. So if you have a question about discussion, let me know. We can definitely look more into it, but I wanted to make discussion a little bit more interesting and really go diving deep into what we would have a discussion about in class. And so if I'm asking you these questions and I'm trying to challenge you in your discussion questions, that's what I'm trying to do, is to try to get more conversation going. Okay, so then the assignment is a 300 essay, and some of you are still having trouble with the essays. Go ahead and reach out to me if you're having trouble with the essays about where to even start. This one is about the Orphan Drug Act of 1983, page 30 in our book, and there's one paragraph which I'm going to lecture about. But 300-page essay should really look like this. This is how the body should look. We're starting with an introduction paragraph, and it can be as simple as, I'm going to talk about the Orphan Drug Act and how blah, 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 blah. Maybe compare and contrast, or I'm going to talk about the side effect or the good and bad of it. And so then you're going to, the next couple paragraphs are talking about that, whether you're comparing it to another law, whether you're talking about what if we never had that law. This can be your essay. There's some questions, I think, under the assignment that you would want to answer. So in the intro, you're going to answer kind of, this is what I'm going to talk about my paper, and then answer those questions in your body. And don't just leave it at that. Then I need a conclusion paragraph, just a little bit of, and this is what the orphan drug was about. I hope you found it interesting, or something to conclude the paragraph. I can't just, or the paper, the 300-page essay. An essay has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that's what I'm grading you on. So if you have just put out there just the answers to the essay, you're not going to get very much points. So again, if you need help with that, let me know. I can always help you with that. So let's just dive into the Orphan Drug Act of 1983. The IND and the NDA procedures are time-consuming and expensive, so manufacturers will pursue only those drugs they feel will generate enough sales volume to cover these expenses and still turn a profit. Unfortunately, this means that drugs to treat diseases affecting only a few people are not developed and marketed. Products must generate profits to enable the manufacturer to stay in business, and if there are not enough people who need a certain drug, its manufacturer will not be profitable. And we haven't really gone into too much detail about how a drug comes to market. But it is a long process, and it is a very expensive process, ending with trials on people that they then pay them for, and just lots of experiments and that kind of stuff. So it is a very expensive process that, yes, the drug companies need to be reimbursed for, but if they don't feel like it's enough profit, then they used to say, well, we're not going to do that drug because it's not beneficial to the drug company. And that's just the wrong way to look at it. And so Congress responded by passing the Orphan Drug Act of 1983, which, if you think 1983, I was born before 1983, That wasn't even a law when I was born. That is crazy to me. This is a new law that, you think we're learning about laws that happened decades ago. This did happen decades ago, but could be in some of your lifetime, which is really neat to me. So it says it gives tax incentives and enhanced marketing rights to manufacturers who develop these drugs. Such drugs are called orphan drugs. The downside of this seemingly noble idea is that there have been cases of manufacturers initially requesting FDA approval of a drug as an orphan drug when actually it may have other uses that are more widespread. Then once it was gained orphan drug tax and licensing advantage, the manufacturer sponsors researchers who publish articles about the other use and other common diseases. So for example, they might have, I'll tell you a real example. Viagra is they started the drug thinking it would be for a blood pressure medication. Well, they figured out that it actually helped erectile dysfunction patients. And so that's what they brought it to market as. It started as one drug, thinking that they would help treat a disease, but it was actually treating another disease. So interesting. And so here they're saying that manufacturers were taking advantage of the FDA and of Congress and saying, here's what it will treat, but they knew in the back of their mind it treated something bigger and that would get them more money. And so they would get the tax incentive already, they would not even be profiting from the drug, and then they would double profit. So that's almost a scam again. Then this gives the manufacturer the tax and marketing advantage of the orphan drug while enjoying the profits of its other, more widespread use. Thankfully, such unethical behavior is not a common occurrence. So it's a good thing that some of the drug companies may be doing it. I'm sure they're catching them doing that, and so they're putting that to rest. Okay, so some of your quiz questions, just to quickly touch on these. Make sure that you read these paragraphs because I'm running out of time on my lecture. Prescribing requirements and restrictions. Who can prescribe prescription drugs? Excuse me. And what kind of prescription drugs can they prescribe? I know in one of my classes where they were asking, can a dentist prescribe a sleep medication? And why would that be kind of out of his scope of that? So it talks about the scope of practice in this paragraph. Go ahead and hit that paragraph when you're reading about this. The labeling requirements, make sure that you know what is on that. Patient information and cautionary statements. There's a couple questions on that. Let's see. I think this goes to 40. Some of this was in the last week, so I'm kind of making sure we're hitting recalls, class 1, class 2, and class 3. You need to know the difference between that. That's on the quiz this week. And then that's it. Page 40. That's all you have to go to. So 10 pages basically, and some of that is not even included because it was included in the first week. So wanted to just give you an update. Week 5 is next week, midterm week, meaning you do not have a discussion question due, and you don't have a assignment due. All you have to do is your midterm exam. And so our next lecture will actually be about us reviewing for the midterm so that you can really get a handle on what is it going to be. You can always use your book to help you in the midterm, but I always like to just do a review so you know where to look and what to expect. So we will do that next week. And then there also will be a week 5 survey for you to do, and that'll give you 10 extra credit points. And we'll talk more about that next week so you don't have to worry about it. All right, hope you have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon.